Did you know that the Kingdom of Bhutan is recognized for being one of the most isolated destinations in the world? It's a mountainous country situated at the eastern end of the Himalayas, which hinders access and communication with other countries. But they also voluntarily isolate themselves to preserve their culture and independence. Bhutan is one of the few countries where you can observe a low influence of modern culture. It was in 1974 when the Bhutanese government began to allow the entry of foreigners into the country, but in very limited quantities. In the 18th century, the English attempted to establish relations, but they did not succeed, and to this day, only a few countries have diplomatic relations with Bhutan. This makes it one of the most authentic places in the world, as it still retains its traditions, customs, architecture, and ancestral society. But I can tell you many other curious facts about this country. Stay with me, because Bhutan is truly a unique country that will not leave you indifferent. 1. In Bhutan, success is not measured by gross domestic product, but by happiness. They focus on gross national happiness, which is based on the idea that the true wealth of a country is not found in money or material goods, but in the well-being and happiness of its people. This data is measured through 4 fundamental pillars: sustainable socioeconomic development, environmental conservation, preservation of culture, and good governance. They even have a Minister of Happiness, whose function is to promote and achieve the well-being of the population. The King of Bhutan, about whom I will soon tell you, has stated on several occasions that the happiness of his people is more important than material wealth. Therefore, Bhutan is distant from capitalism, which means that they do not have a high material wealth, although culturally they value spiritual wealth more, which, as you will see, they have much more developed. 2. Bhutan is one of the smallest countries in the world, with 14,692 square miles and a population of about 800,000 people. The Bhutanese have a strong connection with nature, a developed spirituality, and place great importance on the care of health and the environment. It's the first country to be carbon negative, meaning it absorbs more carbon dioxide than it emits. Also, it is the only country in the world where the sale and production of tobacco is prohibited, a measure that seeks to protect the health of its citizens and promote a healthier lifestyle. 3. Bhutan has been isolated until not long ago. It began to open up to the world from the 1960s, during the reign of the third king of Bhutan, Jigme Dorji Wangchuk, when the country initiated a modernization process to improve the quality of life of its population and develop diplomatic relations with other countries. Although initially the restrictions were very strict, in 1974, Bhutan allowed the entry of a limited number of foreign tourists. This restrictive tourism policy is called high-value, low-impact tourism, which aims to protect the environment, culture, and traditions of Bhutan while generating income to finance development and improve the lives of its citizens. In addition, Bhutan established diplomatic relations with countries like India in 1949 and joined international organizations like the United Nations in 1971, which also contributed to opening the country to the world. There is internet in the country, which inevitably has an influence on the population, especially on the younger generations. However, Bhutan remains relatively isolated and distanced from other countries, a fact that is reflected in that it currently only has embassies or consulates in Australia, Thailand, Belgium, Bangladesh, Kuwait, India, Switzerland, and the United States. They have maintained a policy of neutrality in international affairs, avoiding involvement in conflicts and political alliances. 4. The Portuguese Jesuits Estevão Casella and João Cabral were the first Europeans to reach Bhutan in 1627, when they traveled through Tibet and entered Bhutan via the Dzongri Pass while searching for a route to India. These missionaries met with the region's leader, Zabdrung Ngawang Namgyal, and remained in Bhutan for several months before continuing their journey to India. In the 18th and 19th centuries, there were some interactions between Bhutan and Europeans, especially with the British, who at that time governed India. In 1774, the British George Bogle was sent to Bhutan as an envoy from the East India Company to establish formal relations. He did not succeed, but left detailed records of his journey and his encounters with the Bhutanese. 5. Mass media arrived in Bhutan quite late compared to most countries in the world. It was in 1999 when the government finally allowed television and internet access, which was done as part of an effort to modernize the country and improve the quality of life of its population. Similarly, it was the last country to introduce the radio in 1988. Despite this openness, the government has maintained some control over content, promoting educational and cultural programs instead of purely commercial or entertainment content. 6. Due to this isolation from the world, the Bhutanese did not know that the marijuana plant can be consumed until the radio and television arrived. Before they discovered it, the locals collected it and prepared it to give to pigs. Currently, it is illegal and can carry up to 5 years in prison. 7. Until 1961, it had no paved roads, and the only way to travel was on foot or horseback. Today, the most common forms of transportation are private vehicles, taxis, and buses. The latter connect the main cities. For air transport, there are 4 airports throughout the country, although flights are limited. In more remote areas, due to the mountainous geography and lack of infrastructure, there are 3 main options: walking, horse riding, and riding yaks, although yaks are used more as pack animals. Also, it is one of the few countries where there are no trains or railways. 8. The modern postal service in Bhutan was established in 1962. Before, there was a rudimentary messaging system through foot messengers, who carried important messages and packages between the districts and towns of the country. With the arrival of the modern postal service, postal stamps and post offices were implemented in different parts of the country, thus improving communication and the exchange of goods and services. 9. Paro International Airport is Bhutan's only international airport, the main gateway to the country for most tourists. It is known for being one of the most difficult and dangerous airports in the world for landing and taking off due to the complicated geographical conditions, being at an altitude of 7,333 feet. On descent, the pilot has to zigzag between mountains, sometimes rectify trajectories, and land quickly on a runway of only 3,937 feet. Landings can only be made during the day, and if there are clouds or other adverse weather conditions, the flight can be diverted. Moreover, it is done manually, following procedures that have been designed by experienced pilots. Only a few pilots worldwide are qualified to land at this airport. The 2 national airlines, Druk Air and Bhutan Airlines, operate flights to and from destinations such as India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Thailand, and Singapore. 10. The kings of Bhutan have ruled since the creation of the monarchy in 1907, when Sir Ugyen Wangchuk was crowned as the first Dragon King. Since then, the monarchy has passed through 5 generations of the same family. The current king is Higme Khezar Namgyel Wangchuk, also known as Druk Gyalpo, crowned in 2008 following the abdication of his father, King Higme Singye Wangchuk. Druk Gyalpo is known for his charisma and closeness to his people. He studied at prestigious universities in the United Kingdom and the United States, which has allowed him to balance tradition and modernity in his style of governance. His wife is Hetsun Pema Wangchuk, the Dragon Queen, Queen Consort of Bhutan. She is famous for her beauty, elegance, interest in art, painting, and basketball. She was born in 1990, and when she married the king in October 2011, at 21, she became the youngest queen consort in the world. Hetsun Pema is not of royal birth, but she comes from a distinguished family. She studied in India and the United Kingdom. She and the king are parents to two sons, Crown Prince Higme Namgyel Wangchuk and Prince Ugyen Wangchuk. 11. In 2008, the constitution was approved, and Bhutan transitioned from being an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy based on Buddhist philosophy, human rights, and other modern constitutions. Although the king's powers have been limited, he remains a significant figure in Bhutan. He is the head of state, playing a key role in the formation of the government and legislation. He also plays an important role in promoting the welfare and unity of the Bhutanese people. However, he does not have absolute powers and must act in accordance with the laws and regulations set forth by the Constitution. 12. In Bhutan is one of the wonders built by humankind, the Tiger's Nest, or Takzang Palpug Monastery, located on a cliff in the Paro Valley, 11,483 feet above sea level. It is one of the most sacred and venerated places in Bhutan, one of the most visited destinations by Bhutanese pilgrims and travelers. Its origin dates back to the 8th century when Guru Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, is believed to have introduced Buddhism to Bhutan and Tibet. According to legend, Rinpoche flew from Tibet to where the monastery now stands on the back of a tigress, who was actually a queen consort who had transformed. The guru meditated in a cave on the cliff for 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours, subduing local demons and converting them into protectors of the Dharma, which are Buddhist teachings. The current complex was built in the 17th century around the cave where Rinpoche meditated. It consists of several interconnected temples and shrines, with narrow passages and stairs carved into the rock. 13. The capital of Bhutan is Thimphu, located in the valley of the Thimphu Chu River. With an altitude of 7,657 feet above sea level, it is one of the highest capitals in the world. It is also the only capital in the world without traffic lights. Traffic officers direct the flow of vehicles from booths at major intersections. In fact, there are no traffic lights throughout the country. Despite being the country's capital, Thimphu has a calm and peaceful atmosphere. Its buildings follow a traditional Bhutanese architectural style, with one of its landmarks being the Tashicho Dzong, a monastery fortress housing the king's offices and the summer residence of the He Khenpo, Bhutan's spiritual leader. The capital is also home to the Buddha Dordenma, a massive Buddha statue located atop a hill, standing at 169 feet high, one of the largest statues in the world. 14. Other Bhutanese localities include Paro, known for its fortresses and monasteries, such as the Paro Zong and the Tiger's Nest. Phunts Holing, where one of the border crossings with India is located. Punakha, the old capital until 1955, home to the Palace of Great Happiness. Pakar, in the heart of Bhutan, and hosting religious festivals like the Hambai Lakhang Drup, and Trongsa, birthplace of the Wangchuk dynasty, the royal family. 15. The majority religion in Bhutan is Mahayana, or Vajrayana Buddhism, practiced by 85% of the population. This is a unique and esoteric form of Buddhism, found mainly in Tibet and the Himalayan region. Bhutanese integrate their religious beliefs and practices into their daily lives, whether through meditation, pilgrimages to sacred sites, recitation of mantras, or the use of prayer flags, which can be seen waving throughout the country. These colored flags carry imprinted prayers and mantras, which are believed to be carried by the wind to bless the environment and the people who inhabit it. 16. The He Khenpo is the most important religious and spiritual leader in Bhutan, a highly respected and venerated figure. He is considered the embodiment of the wisdom and compassion of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, playing a role not only in the spiritual realm, but also with an impact on political and social life, as he advises the king and the government on religious and ethical matters. He is appointed by the king, selected from the most erudite and virtuous monks in Bhutan. Once chosen, the He Khenpo serves for life, with the primary responsibility of maintaining and promoting the teaching and practice of Buddhism. 17. The lifestyle of Bhutanese monks is far removed from the modern way of life in Western or capitalist countries. Monks dedicate their lives to spiritual practice and study, able to enter monastic life at 6 or 7 years old, sometimes by their parents' decision, who believe it is a way to have a life of merit and spiritual blessings. In Bhutan, there are 8 major monasteries and approximately 200 small monasteries and nunneries, with about 12,000 monks and 5,000 nuns. Bhutanese monks lead a simple though disciplined life. They rise early, around 4:30 in the morning, and begin their rituals of meditation and prayer. They study philosophy, literature, history, chanting, and rituals, engage in manual labor, and contribute to their communities, focusing on the present moment. Education and training can last many years, during which monks ascend through various levels of knowledge and skills. Meditation and prayer are fundamental, allowing them to cultivate self-control, compassion, and wisdom. They follow a series of vows and disciplinary rules known as Vinaya. Among them are the vows of celibacy, abstaining from killing or harming other living beings, and leading a simple and austere life. In addition, they must behave with humility and respect towards others. Shaving their heads is a sign of renunciation of ordinary life and outside of social conventions. A tradition is the philosophical debate on Buddhist teachings, not as a form of competition or demonstration of knowledge, but to deepen the teachings. By living these temples and having to coexist, they develop a strong sense of community. These monks also serve as spiritual guides to other people in the communities, providing them with support and advice for their lives. 18. The official language of Bhutan is Dzongkha. Although there are about 20 languages in total and various dialects spoken throughout the territory, hello is Kuzuzangpo, how are you is Gadai Baizui, and thank you is Kadrin Che. For a more polite and formal way, Allah is added at the end of words or expressions. 19. In Bhutan, respect for animals is deeply rooted in the culture and religious beliefs of Buddhism, which emphasizes compassion towards all living beings. The killing of animals for human consumption is prohibited, including slaughterhouses, and if one wants to eat meat, it must be imported from neighboring countries like India. As Buddhists, it would be expected that most Bhutanese are vegetarians, although meat consumption is very ingrained, which could be related to the need to ingest more carbohydrates and fats in a cold climate, and the need for agricultural work. In cities and towns, it is common to see stray dogs, generally well treated by the local population, who often provide them with food and shelter. Likewise, most of Bhutan's population live in rural areas, practicing a traditional agricultural way of life. Animals such as yaks and cows play an important role in everyday life and are treated with respect and care by their owners. 20. Bhutan has one of the strictest conservation policies in the world. There are numerous national parks and protected areas to preserve its biodiversity, with the largest being the Wangchuk Centennial Park, covering 1,931 square miles. The Constitution of Bhutan requires that at least 60% of its territories be covered by forests at all times, which helps to maintain and protect the habitat of animals. 21. Some of the animals that inhabit Bhutanese territory are the Malayan giant squirrel, the Bengal tiger, the red panda, and the snow leopard. The latter lives in the highest and most remote regions at altitudes between 9,842 and 13,123 feet in extreme and cold conditions. Due to its low population, elusive nature, shyness, and ability to camouflage, the snow leopard is one of the most difficult felines to spot. 22. Bhutanese women have a significant responsibility in society and enjoy a series of rights and freedoms, traditionally more so than men. Bhutanese society has a matrilineal inheritance. That is, property and family assets are passed down through the female line, giving women a considerable economic and social position. In daily life, women work in various sectors, such as agriculture, education, healthcare, and government. In rural areas, they are usually responsible for agricultural tasks and home care, while in urban areas, more and more women are joining the workforce in professional and technical positions. 23. Although love marriages are becoming more common in Bhutan, especially in urban areas, arranged marriages still exist, particularly in rural communities. Parents often take the initiative in seeking a suitable spouse for their children, consulting an astrologer to determine the compatibility of the couples. In marriages, men perform a significant part of the household chores, often cook, and traditionally are the ones who make or repair clothing, but do not weave the fabric. In larger localities, a somewhat more Western pattern of family structure is emerging, with the husband as the provider of food and the wife in charge of the home. 24. Polygamy is legal, although there are fewer and fewer cases. It was practiced more in the past, particularly among the nobility and wealthy families. But over time, customs and attitudes have been changing, and today it is an infrequent and not so accepted practice. An example of polygamy is the fourth king of Bhutan, Higme Zingye Wangchuk, the father of the current king, who is married to 4 wives. Polyandry, a woman married to several men, is practiced by the Brokpa ethnic group and in Laya, a population in northwestern Bhutan. Having a woman married to several brothers ensures that the children inherit the land and herds from the same family. On the other hand, these are remote places where marrying strangers is frowned upon. Usually, an elder man or brother is the leader of the household, and the others are considered equal companions of the woman. In any case, it is a practice that is dying out as new generations receive more advanced education and move to more populated places. 25. The adult literacy rate in Bhutan is relatively low, with about 70% of people being literate, although it has increased by 20% since 1980. Among young people, it is much higher, around 93%, indicating that progress is being made in access to education. 26. When greeting someone, Bhutanese join their palms near their chest in prayer position and make a small bow, which is known as Namaste or Namaskar, considered a respectful way of greeting others. 27. In Bhutan, they are accustomed to chewing doma, a mixture of areca palm nuts, leaves, and lime. It has a stimulating effect, and people spit red. But be careful, it's not good for long-term health. 28. The Bhutanese New Year is celebrated according to the Tibetan lunar calendar and is known as Losar, which is an important national holiday celebrated between late January and early March, depending on the dates of the lunar calendar. It lasts for about 3 days, although celebrations may extend in some regions. Before Losar, families clean their homes thoroughly to remove bad energy and attract good fortunes in the new year. During Losar, traditional dishes like kapse, fried flour sweets, and suha, tea with butter and salt, are prepared. Offerings are made on home altars, and local monasteries are visited to receive blessings from monks. 29. As they follow the lunar calendar, most Bhutanese didn't keep a record of their exact date of birth, nor celebrate individual birthdays. It's considered that everyone's birthday is the first day of the Bhutanese New Year. On the other hand, Bhutan has a more collectivist culture and doesn't place as much importance on individual achievements or celebrations. However, with the growing influence of Western culture and the widespread use of the Gregorian calendar, some Bhutanese, especially in urban areas, have begun to adopt the practice of celebrating individual birthdays on their actual date of birth. 30. Except for royal and noble lineages, names in Bhutan do not include a surname. Usually, children are given a unique name shortly after birth, often involving a lama, who may base his choice on factors such as astrology, the date of birth, or the qualities and characteristics that the parents desire for their child. A Bhutanese name typically consists of 2 words, which can represent positive qualities, religious virtues, or elements of nature. An example is Tashi Dorhi. Tashi means good fortune or prosperity, and Dorhi means diamond or indestructible. Another is Pema Lazom. Pema means lotus, and Lazom means goddess or heavenly beauty. The first name is usually gender neutral. For example, in Sering Yangdan, who is the mother of the current king of Bhutan, Sering is neutral, but Yangdan is usually associated with women. 31. Astrology is an important part of Bhutanese culture and daily life, heavily influenced by Buddhism and used for various purposes, such as decision-making, predicting future events, and interpreting past events. It typically follows the lunar system, based on the position of different celestial bodies in relation to a person's date and time of birth. Bhutanese also believe in reincarnation, with astrology influencing the identification of reincarnation of lamas and spiritual teachers. When a child is sought who is the reincarnation of a deceased spiritual teacher, astrologers are consulted, who determine the time and place of birth of the reincarnated. 32. Bhutanese traditional medicine has a long history. It is based on concepts derived from Tibetan Buddhism, Tibetan medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine from India. Traditional doctors are experts in the preparation and collection of ingredients and in the treatment of diseases. So much importance is given to this medicine that the third king created the Institute of Traditional Medicine, which offers healthcare services alongside modern medicine. 33. Bhutan has a relatively low crime rate, largely attributed to its strong sense of community, cultural and spiritual values, as well as the national philosophy of gross national happiness. The most common crimes in Bhutan are usually of lesser gravity, such as thefts, burglaries, drug consumption, and scams. Violent crimes, such as homicides and assaults, are uncommon. 34. The Druk is the thunder dragon of Bhutanese mythology, a powerful and benevolent guardian of hidden treasures and wisdom, symbol of divine protection and spiritual guide of the Bhutanese people. It is present on the national flag of Bhutan, where it holds in its claws 4 jewels or norbus, symbolizing the wealth, prosperity, and well-being of the nation. The upper color represents the civil and religious authority of the king, and the orange at the bottom represents Buddhism, compassion, and the spirituality of the Bhutanese. 35. Traditional architecture is represented by zongs, which are monuments with a central role in cultural and spiritual life. They are fortresses with a unique combination of military fortifications, administrative centers, and Buddhist monasteries, showing the close relationship between religious, politics, and society in Bhutan. One of the most famous and visited dzongs is the Punakha Dzong, also known as Palace of Great Happiness, located at the confluence of the Po-Chu and Mo-Chu rivers, the seat of the Bhutan government until 1955. 36. The national flower of Bhutan is a species of blue poppy, scientifically named Mechanopsis gakidiana, mainly found in the mountainous regions of the Himalayas at altitudes between 11,480 and 14,760 feet. 37. The national bird of Bhutan is the Himalayan raven. In Bhutanese mythology, this bird is considered a symbol of protection and is believed to be the country's guardian. The raven crown is the official crown worn by the kings of Bhutan, while the queens use the phoenix crown. 38. The takin is considered the most emblematic and distinctive animal of the country. According to legend, it was created by the great Buddhist saint Drukpa Kunle, known as the Divine Madman, combining the head of a goat with the body of a cow. It is a protected species in Bhutan and can be found in the Motitang Takin Preserve, a wildlife sanctuary on the outskirts of Thimphu. 39. The national sport of Bhutan is archery, known locally as Da, seen not only as a sports activity, but also as a social and cultural practice. It has its own features and rules, different from international standards. Competitions are held outdoors, with distances between the archers and the targets much greater than in international competitions, reaching between 394 and 476 feet. The bows are made of bamboo, although modern composite bows are also used nowadays. In Bhutanese competitions, teams consist of several members who face off in shooting rounds. The targets, called karais, are small cylinders of wood covered with colorful fabric, which are placed on the ground instead of being raised. When an archer hits the target, his team members sing and dance in celebration. 40. Some Bhutanese believe in the existence of the Yeti, known locally as Migoi. The explanation that they are hard to see is that they are supernatural creatures who can become invisible. In some stories, the Yeti is a protective guardian of wildlife and nature, while in others, it is considered an evil and dangerous being. Over the years, there have been numerous claims of sightings and encounters with the Yeti, although to date, no scientific evidence has been found to prove its existence. 41. Traditional Bhutanese dress is mandatory in public places and during official events. Men wear the go, a kind of knee-length robe, while women wear the kira, a long rectangular dress that wraps around the body. 42. Cham dances are Bhutanese religious dances performed with masks and costumes at Buddhist festivals called Sechus. The most important celebration is the Paro Sechu Festival, a 5-day event held at the Rinpung Dzong. These masks have a spiritual function to purify and bless the spectators. The dancers are usually monks or laymen trained in monasteries who use elaborate costumes and masks to represent deities, heroes, demons, and animals. 43. If you go to this amazing country, you will be almost obliged to eat traditional food. There are no fast food chain establishments, which contributes to Bhutan being one of the countries with the fewest overweight people. Ema Datshi is the national dish of Bhutan. It consists of a creamy and spicy stew with green or red chilies, cow or yak cheese, and sometimes onion and tomato, with red or white rice as a side dish. Shakampa is beef, chilies, and radish, Hashamaru is a chicken stew with garlic, onion, tomato, and ginger. Bakshapa is pieces of pork with chilies, radish, and spices. 44. The Bhutanese red rice is a unique variety of rice that is cultivated in Bhutan, mainly in the Paro Valley. It has a distinctive red color caused by the mineral content of the soil, which is irrigated with glacier water rich in minerals, giving it that color and a nutty and earthy flavor. Through a partial milling process, it retains its outer bran layer, making it rich in vitamins, fiber, and minerals, being more nutritious than white rice. 45. Traditional drinks include suha, made from fermented black tea, salt, and butter. Ara, an alcoholic beverage distilled from fermented corn, rice, wheat, or barley. Bangchang, fermented from rice or barley. Xingchang, made from fermented wheat, traditional of eastern Bhutan. 46. The largest and one of the most picturesque fortresses in Bhutan is the Trongsa Dzong, located in the center of Bhutan and considered one of the most important dzongs in the country. It was built in the 16th century on a hill, overlooking the Trongsa Valley, in a strategic position that allowed controlling trade and communication routes between the east and the west. From this place, the Wangchuk dynasty began to unify the country in the 19th century. It is also an important religious and cultural center, as numerous festivals and events are celebrated here throughout the year. One of the most notable is the Trongsa Sechu, which celebrates the Buddhist heritage and history of the Dzong. 47. Due to its deep canyons, Bhutan has numerous suspension bridges. The longest of all is the Punakha Suspension Bridge, with 518 feet, always adorned with colorful prayer flags. One of the highest is the Tachog Suspension Bridge, which is over the Parochu River at 8,595 feet. Built in the 15th century by the renowned bridge builder and Buddhist saint Drupdop Tangdong Gyalpo. 48. Over 20 mountains in Bhutan surpass 22,965 feet. The highest is Kankar Punzum with 24,836 feet. It is the highest mountain in the world that has not yet been climbed. Since 1994, the Bhutanese government has banned all mountaineering expeditions above 19,685 feet, and since 2003 has banned mountaineering altogether. The reason was to preserve the pristine nature of its peaks and respect local beliefs. In Bhutanese culture, mountains are considered to be the abode of deities and protective spirits, and climbing them could offend these divinities and bring bad luck. Although mountaineering is banned, trekking is allowed, including to high-altitude places where you can see some of the highest mountains. For example, on the Jomolhari trek, you can see Mount Jomolhari, 24,035 feet high. 49. The Dochula meditation caves are small mounds of stone and earth covered with vegetation that form shrines. There are many of them on the road between the old capital of Bhutan, Punakha, and the current one, Thimphu. 50. Mebar Sho, or Burning Lake, is a sacred place of great cultural significance, located in the Tang Valley, near the city of Bumtang. According to legend, Pema Lingpa, a 15th century Tibetan Buddhist saint, had a vision in which he was shown the location of a spiritual treasure hidden deep within the lake. The treasure had been hidden by the famous Buddhist master Guru Rinpoche in the 8th century, and Pema Lingpa decided to retrieve it. To demonstrate the authenticity of his vision, he plunged into the lake with a lit butter lamp in hand, emerging with a statue and a sacred scroll, and his lamp still burning. Since then, Mebar Sho has been considered a sacred place, and its waters are believed to have healing and protective powers. 51. Kichu Lakang is one of the oldest and most sacred Buddhist temples in Bhutan. According to legend, it was built in the 7th century in a single day by Tibetan king Dzongtsen Gampo, who ordered the construction of 108 temples across the Himalayan region to subdue a demon hindering the spread of Buddhism. Another temple, allegedly built by the same king as Jambai Lakang, this time to immobilize the demon's left knee. To commemorate the establishment of this temple, the Jambai Lakang Drup Festival is held annually. At midnight, the Tercham, or naked dance, is performed inside the temple, which cannot be viewed by tourists. 52. The Kamsum Yule Namgyal Chorten Temple was built and completed in 1999 by the Queen Mother Ashi Tsering Yangdon Wangchuk, with the purpose of promoting peace, stability, and harmony in Bhutan and across the world. 53. Bhutan's economy is small and largely dependent on agriculture, forestry, and hydropower. The majority of the population lives in rural areas and engages in subsistence farming, growing crops and raising animals to meet their basic needs and those of their families. Agriculture is primarily based on crops such as rice, wheat, maize, potatoes, and chilies. Additionally, livestock farming, including yaks, cows, and sheep, is common for producing milk, meat, and wool. Hydropower is another key sector due to Bhutan's rivers and mountainous location. Much of the energy generated is exported to neighboring India. In recent years, Bhutan has also sought to diversify its economy and promote manufacturing and services industries, including information and communication technology, education, and healthcare. 54. The National Library of Bhutan houses the world's largest published book, called Bhutan, A Visual Odyssey Across the Last Himalayan Kingdom, which weighs over 132 pounds and measures approximately 60 by 84 inches. In addition, the library has one of the largest collections of Buddhist literature. Its mission is to preserve Bhutan's cultural and literary heritage and function as a learning center with access to global information resources. 55. One of the most unique experiences you can have in the world if you want to develop your spirituality is a retreat in Bhutan. These usually take place in serene, remote locations surrounded by fascinating Himalayan landscapes, ideal environments for introspection, reflection, and meditation. In these experiences, guided meditation sessions are held. One can connect with nature, make friends with other spiritual seekers, receive teachings, or practice silence and contemplation. 56. Have you decided to go to Bhutan? Firstly, after your trip, come back to this video and tell us about your experience. But you might be interested in knowing what you need to enter. Almost all foreign citizens, except those from India, Bangladesh, and the Maldives, need a visa to enter Bhutan. Self-organized travel was not allowed in the past, but it has been possible since 2022. However, the cost of visiting the country has increased, with a daily sustainable development fee of $200 and additional costs for food, accommodation, and other expenses. 57. If you are going to Bhutan as a traveler, there are several things you need to keep in mind. Do not play loud music, including in national parks or religious places. It is rude to take photos or videos of people without asking for permission. If you want to take photos inside monasteries, ask for permission first. Selling and producing tobacco is prohibited in Bhutan, but consuming it privately in designated places is allowed. If you carry cigarettes, make sure it is permitted at the time, and you should only smoke them in designated areas. In religious places like dzongs, you will need to wear long-sleeved clothing and long pants. Avoid using plastics or single-use items, as Bhutanese people are very mindful of the environment. In fact, plastic bags have been banned since 1999. Finally, since much of the country is at high altitudes, you could suffer from altitude sickness, so it's recommended to be prepared by consulting a doctor before going and bringing medicine. Something not very well known is that you can enter Bhutan from India, so if you are Indian or there, you can consider this option. Entering from Tibet is not possible. Regarding currency, you can use the local one called Ngultrum or Nu, but you can also bring US dollars for buying souvenirs or tipping. Do not criticize the royal family and avoid discussing sensitive political topics. Bhutan, a place that captures the heart and spirit. A hidden spiritual paradise in the Himalayas, where the beauty of its landscapes intertwines with a serene way of life, showcasing the happiness found in simplicity.